Hi, my name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila, and this will also be seen on New Light Streaming Love. I am pleased this afternoon to welcome Amber Fields, who is another of the folks that are recording Jason's work. And I'm really grateful that you had time to chat with me today. Amber, I have been, as we were sort of discussing when we first got on here this today, I haven't done any recording myself in quite some time. And I'd ask you if we could go ahead and record because what I was about to tell you was, you know, the way I record Jason's work, well, is really the same as anything I record. It's all, I was actually telling you, it's all by internal nudgings. It's all by what I'm guided to do. Um, because when I set out on my journey with my YouTube channel in 2017, it was all about me and finding out the truth of who I am, who, in my view, all of humanity is. And I promised to follow all my internal promptings, all of them. Um, Regardless of whether or not I understood what I was doing or why. And you actually said that you felt like that was kind of tough sometimes because I guess you're doing that in your own sort of way. Is that fair to say what you said to me?
Yeah, I kind of just follow what piques my interest with what Jason writes. And I think I mentioned to you before, if I'm interested in a piece, I'll think like, okay, do I have anything to say about this? Because at first I started out just recording just his work and I wasn't saying anything. And Jason ended up saying, "Oh, like I love the recording, but at the end I was like waiting for you to say something." And so, yeah, I
I
took
guess
his
because
lead.
I got him used to that, I because I hold nothing back, and maybe that's he got used to that, so maybe that's why he said that to you.
Yeah, well, and I love that. I love what you do, and I love your channel, and I love all your recordings of Jason's and Crystal's writings and others. And it really was what first inspired me to start doing readings because, I Jason shared some of your stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. It'd be neat to like read stuff outdoors, and so I sent him a recording of me reading something outside. And when I started, it was all just looking at nature, looking at a tree or looking at the full moon or something like that. But then I wasn't able to do Facebook Lives with that because my internet service wasn't good enough outdoors. So I started doing Facebook Lives with the recordings. And so I moved it indoors. And at that point, I was like, well, I can't really just have a recording of the wall, And so I put my face up there and ripped the mask off. And then I realized, well, those recordings are only available for 30 days on Facebook and then they get deleted. And Jason was like, well, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know about that. And now I really enjoy it a lot. And I find similarities with what you do and how you work your channel, in that like I've learned a lot about myself by doing it. And I do watch the recordings, most of them, and it's been a neat process because in the past I haven't really liked the sound of my voice and things like that, and now I'm like, oh, I'm actually pretty cool.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that because yes, you are,
Thank you.
and B, I would like to ask you actually because I am finding, and boy, specifically after today's synchronicities and everything, because I haven't been recording. And I haven't been doing any of Jason's work either until today. And so for at least 2 full weeks, I haven't been present on the channel. And I had actually said to Jason, I think it was either Saturday evening or Sunday sometime, that my plan was to return to recording on Monday. And on Monday came and I didn't feel it. It just wasn't there. And so this morning, um, it was there, and it was something that he had just posted 9 hours prior, which anytime I see his work, I know immediately if I'm to record it and whether or not it's today or now. And I don't know how to explain that, but I'll have a feeling, oh, that's to be recorded, and I'm to save it and then go back later. But this one was now. It just now. And what I'm noticing for myself, where anything like that is concerned, actually, it's taken some time for me to get to this point where I can notice it for myself. But because of the way I promised to follow all my internal promptings, whether I understood them or not, I'm now seeing and being that I am showing myself something. It is exactly what I asked for. I asked to be shown the who and what I am, what humanity is. And there's a process that I haven't understood, but I'm beginning now to see. I still don't clearly see or know why I'm being led to do something, but I am actually being led, and I am in the process of showing myself puzzle pieces that fit into my overall puzzle, which really is not a it's one of those it's not even a 3D puzzle. It's more like a 12D puzzle. I mean, it's just like because one piece will fit, and then all of a sudden something will it looks like, oh, that's the answer, and then that puzzle disappears and a whole other puzzle shows up, and pieces light up at that from that I gathered some other time, and those can fit now into this new puzzle. And sometimes they just hang out, and they're they're still lit up, for lack of a better term. They haven't shown me exactly where they fit, but I know they go in there somehow. And that's what happened today with this work of Jason's that I recorded. It's now up on both channels, and then following on that, I felt to do a live and do a reading for myself, well, for the collective. And wow is all I can say about that, because it's like I very definitely am showing myself something, and exactly what it is, I still don't know. But you obviously are a part of that. Everyone that comes into my field is another part of me that has puzzle pieces for me. Exactly what those puzzle pieces are, and exactly where they fit, and exactly what I'm to do with it or about it, I don't know yet, but I'm definitely absolutely sure now that that is the way this works, at least for me. And um, it's probably the most exciting, um, well, overall puzzle piece that I've actually finally seen for what it is. And it has me at this moment in a state of awe. I shared with you that just prior to our gathering here, I had to take a nap. I had to take a nap before we could meet because of everything that had transpired so far earlier today. So I'm so grateful that that we could meet this afternoon. Because there's another viewer that just the other day I was supposed to meet with, and I just didn't make it. I don't know what happened exactly. This whole being here and not here and everything. I was saying that I've been calling it health challenges, but as of right now, I'm beginning to wonder. I want to back off from calling something anything that I've perceived it to be in the past because I don't necessarily see it that way anymore. I would have classified what I have going on right now as a health challenge in the past. But after everything that it includes my current um, entertainment, and I say it like that because my housemate and I were nudged to begin earlier in this year of to watch all of the Star Wars um, movies and series and all of those things in chronological order, not in order of release, but chronological order of how the story, uh, because, they did the prequel, they did, right? So, and we were shown quite a bit of things by doing that. And then the next thing that we were nudged to do is to take in the Star Trek in chronological order. And there's an entire universe of Star Trek that I had no idea about. And between what I was just shown last night and what took place today, I have to back off from calling things anything that because every single thing that I've thought to be a particular sort of way isn't at all what it seems, what I've thought. And I want to revisit all of that in a different way because we are powerful beings. And that of Jason's work that I just recorded today, one of the most powerful part of it, I have to read this to you. I don't know if you've already seen it. It was the binary God code and the return of the flame bearers.
Yeah, that is a really powerful piece.
Oh my word. I cannot unsee the fact that I was just now, I don't know when he put that out. It looked like it was just 9 hours previous, but I also know that a lot of what he's putting out was put out before, and I had saved, and in some cases, now I double checked that I had not recorded this, and I had not. But when I got to the part here at the end, I believe it was at the end, where he says that we we write with our breath, we create with our breath. I I know that to be true. So I want to back off from anything and everything I have assumed to be true based solely on my upbringing, my indoctrination, my programming and conditioning, because that's all I have to rely on. And I no longer trust it on any sort of level.
Yeah,
After,
I totally agree.
especially after, like I said, this has been way too wild for me to be shown this in this particular way. When I would love to know from you, are you noticing that the different ones that you're recording are showing you things um, about
Oh,
yourself
absolutely.
too?
Yeah, and a difference between us is I shy away from the code, the writings with the codes, or if I want to read one with code in the past, I would leave the code out just because it's challenging for me to read. And I think that some of my viewers might not be as interested in that. They're more interested in the literary aspects of it. But absolutely, I mean, all of Jason's work I feel like has changed me in valuable ways. And it kind of gets back to what you were talking about with you know how things fit together and synchronicities happen. And I think that a lot of it is what we are paying attention to, and then with that attention, then what we're doing with our intention. And if we're not really trusting in the universe and the universe's plan, then I think we can get led astray or not be paying attention to things that we're supposed to be, maybe. Um, and it's hard because of all the indoctrination and trauma and different things that have happened to us in our life. It is hard to trust in the universe. That is just so hard for me. But I'm getting better at it. And like I said, Jason's writings have really helped with that. And I think that ultimately that's how I was led to his writings, because I didn't really follow the Ancient Order of the Hermetics page that closely. But
Me either. Isn't that interesting? That's
no,
where
not
I
at
found
all.
him too, was through that page. And I joined that page. Um, I don't know. It had to have been years and years and years ago.
Yeah, same.
And so yeah, that's very interesting that you say it in just that way. Because obviously, um, well, and I have been shown that several times when I've been nudged to view a video, let's say, or, like in this case, Star Trek. I, and I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, why was I led to do this now? Because I'm sure not getting anything out of this. I don't understand. And there'll be one thing that'll ping, and it might be close to the end of the video or something like that, but one thing that'll ping. And I kind of am wondering at this point if Jason wasn't the one thing that pinged, you know what I mean? Because it sure seemed like it. And that too, I'll be honest with you, I think that's important. Why? The differences between us when you talked about the code, if we all follow our inner promptings to the letter, just to the letter, I have a feeling that we will discover um, that is what it's all about.
Our
That
intuition.
well, that's right, and uh, and that is what I'm being shown, to be honest with you. When we all just show up and do what we feel led to do, we have no idea how or what it will affect or how or why. but it will do what it's meant to do. And we may never even really figure it out, the whys and the wherefores, but it will. It can't help but to. Oh my God. That too was in that one of the most recent episodes of Star Trek that we were watching. One of the engineers said that she knew that just smiling at her husband forever changed the universe. And that was the most beautiful thing in the world. And that's exactly what that is, by the way. It's, the quantum, because that's what it all is. It is affected by each of us. And if we are doing what we are led to do rather than what we're being told or, whatever, right? I don't know. I'm convinced that if that is what how it actually was meant originally to operate, um, or at least
Absolutely.
it's where we're going. I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, and it can be hard to separate out the wheat from the chaff as far as like, okay, is this my ego or is this truly my intuition leading here? And that's, I think, a real something to practice with for sure. I know I'm
Oh
still
no,
practicing.
you're so right. I struggle with that myself a lot, and but the truth of it is for me, Amber, as long as a being is willing to ask that question of themselves, is this my ego or my soul? Eventually, we won't have to ask that question.
Yeah.
The only reason we're asking that question right now is because we don't trust ourselves.
And think about how much more we would trust ourselves and not let the ego get in the way if we were taught about the ego from, preschool. It would be so different. And
I think you're right. And I
yeah.
don't I don't think we would even have to worry about being taught about the ego, because part of the ego's development, and not just part, all of the ego's development, I submit, is due to installed programming and conditioning and the trauma that has resulted from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why I feel that way. I have witnessed the installation of programming and conditioning into a child who didn't understand why they were being told that this is the correct way to do something. I mean,
I've heard
clearly,
you tell that story, yeah, about your grandson or your
my
granddaughter.
granddaughter, yes. And I'm telling you, that is part and parcel of what has happened to all of us. We come in here, we arrive in this realm straight from the Godhead. We know ourselves. We are taught that because that's an infant, they don't know anything, and we have to mold them and shape them and show them what to do. All we have to do is nurture, love, and make sure they have care and comfort, and teach them how the body works. They got the rest of it. They are a God being, the same as all the rest of us,
Mhm.
exactly the same, and quite frankly, in my view, closer to the Godhead and the truth of who we are than we are, because
Yep.
we've been programmed and conditioned, and there is not a being on this planet, especially about the ego. The ego is a wounded part of ourselves. Always. There's not one being that has escaped that on this planet.
Yeah.
And whenever I see anyone, I know, and let's say you're witnessing somebody argue with somebody else or being rude or whatever, that's a wounded being. That's what that is, showing itself to us.
Yeah.
I know that with all of me, and we hopefully we will um, change up how we treat our children in the future because they actually will teach us if we allow it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's going to take generations because, I'm someone who doesn't want to indoctrinate my child with a lot of these belief systems and formalities and different things, that society accepts or wants people to teach their children.
Right.
And yet it's still hard for me. I catch myself all the time being like, well, does that really matter? Why are you telling her this? Um, and it's that wounded part of me that struggles with that. And so, I know that my daughter's going to struggle too if she has children with the same exact thing, because it's going to take a while for us to relearn and to forget.
Right. No, you're so right. I will tell you, however, I have the privilege. My housemate, Lisa Flamino Rush, um, her daughter is now in college. And so I have had the privilege of living now for the last 9 years almost with a family who have been closer to being um, while there was programming and conditioning there because none of us are completely without it, but because Lisa has been in the space of getting to the truth of who she is for a very much longer time than I have been, um, I can see in her daughter the capacity to view herself in a wholly different light than anyone I've ever noticed. And it's just that very act of questioning oneself, of knowing that people are wounded, knowing that we've been programmed. That's half of it right there. That's half of the battle. So as each becomes aware, and I do feel that many of us are beginning to see, because who couldn't actually see that that is exactly where even the most heinous thing among us, the heinous acts that we might bear witness to, are coming from a place of wounding, horrific wounding that has happened to everyone on the planet. And
Yeah.
for me, it just changes everything. It shifts everything. And if we each allow the other the space to see that about themselves and for themselves, um, I don't
That's
know.
how
It
we
just,
learn.
yes. And it shifts everything. It changes everything. Just
Yeah.
that one small shift in perspective.
Yeah, because I know that for me, some of the worst parts of myself, the parts I don't like the most, to come from those wounds and that trauma. And yet it is time and time again how I've learned the most about myself.
Yes,
It's
you're
it's
so right.
like that the one of the keys.
No, you're so right. That's another reason why I don't I'm not unhappy about the way my life has been, because you're right. That's the greatest teacher, actually. And for me, I keep being shown where it has been part of the plan, if you will. I know a lot of folks who have been through it and maybe are going through it right now. Um, because we've had conversations where, folks are like, well, I would never have set any of this crap up. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I got to tell you, I know for a fact I set this up myself because I can see my handiwork all over it. I'm a stubborn so and so, and I'm pretty sure that I set that up right there because I could see, um, you know. So I don't know. It's really is. Well, I used to come from a victim perspective,
Like so many of us.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess it depends on where a being is in that moment. Are you still looking at things through how the universe is doing that to you, or the universe is doing it for you? Because that's two valid perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's neat because, I wouldn't be raising my daughter the way I am if it weren't for my past and the hard parts of my childhood. And it's neat to see the little things that do make a difference because um, I remember as a kid thinking like, man, how am I supposed to accomplish anything in this world? Like it's so complicated and everything's already been discovered and there's just people out there that are so much smarter than me. And so I wouldn't ask a lot of questions and stuff because it was like, whoa, I don't know anything. I'm afraid to ask stuff. And part of that's, because of the responses I would get from adults, but part of it, I mean, I remember like my mom talking to my grandparents about something weird that I had done. And she was talking right in front of me as if I couldn't understand and as if I wasn't even right there. Um, and so with my daughter, from the time she was born, I spoke as if she could understand everything I was saying. And it has made a difference because she's brilliant for her age and she's a little chatterbox. It's like she's not afraid to ask anything or give her opinion about anything. And sometimes it's hard because I was so opposite as a child. I was just like the silent observer and like timid and super shy. And so it can be hard for me to deal with someone who's talking all the time because I need a lot of like downtime and silence, which I don't get. But I love it. I love that she is that vibrant and that she is confident and trusts herself and knows that her opinion matters. And yeah, I think you're right. I think she's going to be like your roommate's daughter, hopefully in a lot of ways. That um, even though I know there'll be some stuff that she gets from me
Right?
too.
Right. Well,
But
and
those will
that's
be her
okay.
lessons, right?
That's right. Exactly correct. That's what I feel. I was told when I first started on this journey, I was fortunate enough to meet a local psychic, and she spent quite a bit of time with me one afternoon, and she told me things that that there's no way she could have known. So I knew it was real what was happening. And she's the first one that said to me specifically that my son chose me as the parent. And I had heard others say things like that. Um, but she followed it up and said that he tried to be born to me once before, but he was female and he wanted to experience being male, so he left.
Well, that's so interesting.
She couldn't have known because I hadn't told anyone that I had been pregnant at 16. And I always, always, always believed that it was a female child.
Mm, that
I
is
never
fascinating.
shared that with anyone. So the fact that she brought that forward, and then when I met Lisa, She actually invited and got into communication with the soul that is her daughter prior to conception. And, they talked and worked a few things out consciously.
So cool.
I
I
know.
have a
So
friend whose son, or she was talking to her son. He was about like 2 or 3, probably 3, and she said like, "Oh well, we decided to have you, or whatever." And he said, "No, mom, I picked you," and I thought that was so cool. Um,
I think that's how it works. I do.
yeah, I do
I
too.
I do. And I wanted to ask, what is the age of your daughter?
She's 5 now, but when she was younger, starting at about 2, she'd been talking for about 7 or 8 months. She started saying some very interesting things because it coincided with my brother's death, when she was really starting to say sentences and stuff. And I know that either he was saying stuff to her in the room or said stuff through her. And yeah, some of the things she said have just been so powerful. Because he
Well,
took his life, and he was living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And I was I was executive as will, and I was in the living room doing something, and she turned to me. She was playing, and she turned to me and she said, "Mom, the problem is my life in Phoenix." And it's like, what? And I was just blown away because I knew it was my brother. And then I didn't even know she knew the word Phoenix. I mean, what the heck?
well, I'm convinced, I have been for the last several years, that the children who are entering this realm now, and I don't know exactly when it started, probably it's been ongoing. They will not be so easily programmed the way, let's say, I was, right? And the way my child was,
Mhm.
which I honestly don't. He is, because I can see my handiwork in that too. He has been programmed and conditioned. Make no mistake. But I think each successive generation that has been coming in, is less susceptible to that programming. Um, Now, again, don't get me wrong. It can happen. It's just not, it wouldn't be as easy, I don't think, which also speaks to, I'm being shown Jason's the writing that I recorded today. It can still happen with certain individuals and certain situations and things that are going down in a particular way. But again, for me, it all serves, and everyone. See, this is where, for me, it speaks to, if any of what you just shared and what I've shared is true, that these beings choose to whom they're going to be born. There's reasons for that. It has to do with not just with the experiences for themselves, but the experiences for the others in their lives and for moving forward. And am, I keep being shown where, to some degree, on the other side of that veil that we talk about, um, there are things that are known that over here are not.
Absolutely. So much, I think. So much.
Right. And so, um, I think that the level of programming that is accepted, um, is also chosen. Now, I hadn't ever considered that until most recently, but because I was asking myself, why is it that I can so clearly see some of this programming and conditioning, and others cannot. Well, one of the answers I got was it's a multifold answer, but one of them does have to do with the amount and level that we allowed ourselves, that pre-birth allowed ourselves to take on.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with, I think, um, the experiences that we were choosing, what roles we're here to play. There's a lot of different reasonings behind it. But I keep being shown too that the children that are entering at this time are not going to be so easily programmed. And you confirmed that for me in what you were saying with your daughter. And so I really think that a part of it has to do with the levels that were chosen prior to birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I have a pre-life memory that I didn't realize was a pre-life memory until um, really until COVID, actually, and I started seeing the world differently. But I had this recurring nightmare when I was a young child, and it was just would fill me with horror. It was absolutely the most terrifying thing I ever experienced or still ever have experienced, this sense of dread in this nightmare. And it was um, me before I was born looking down at the earth and knowing that I had to come here, but not wanting to come at all because of knowing what was there and what I would experience. And when I like zoomed in on the planet, and this is what made me wake up, or not, it's made what made me realize that it was a pre-life memory during COVID, was because when I looked down on the ground on earth, there were all these paddocks or corrals with sheep in them. And I thought as a child, I was like, oh, it's just about that old fable of, counting sheep or something like that, when you fall asleep. But no, it's led to me having other memories from that same time of like right before, I think it's from right before I was born into a body. And my parents say that like I was the only person, or I have two older brothers, and of the three I was the only planned birth or conception. And they told me that when they conceived me that they could feel it, and that they felt like they were bringing someone, like a spirit, into the world that like needed to be here or something. So I thought that was pretty cool, like
I'll
those two things
say,
combined. But yeah, I think that that makes a lot of sense as far as, you know, deciding whether we decide or we know when we.
oh no. Oh no, I don't know what happened. We'll wait. Hopefully Amber will be able to come right back. She is in a library, and she did say that there was some issue with the internet that she was having. She was trying to do it on her laptop, and she ended up having to do it on her phone. And her phone was plugged in, so hopefully she'll be able to come right back. I'm going to take a moment and send her a message real quick. This happens sometimes. Come on back if you can, love. I'm keeping the place hot for you. I'm so enjoying this conversation with Amber, and I want to take this opportunity while I'm waiting for her to say to all of you, if you would like to have a conscious conversation, much like this, or on any other sort of topic, reach out to me at consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com and let's keep the conversation going. Um, you know, uh, these are the kinds of conversations I love to have. And um, I love hearing about others. And if you feel nudged in any way, shape, or form, if you I'm feeling to off also to share that I am a beyond quantum healer practitioner. And if it came up while for some reason it came in while she was chatting. So when she comes back, I also need to let her know that. Um, And if you have memories or anything like that that you would like to discover, or you feel drawn to know more about yourself in that way, you can, ask me about that in an email. Um, if you would like to experience a reading with me, I will put myself out there and say that I'm happy to do those. Just reach out, consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com, and let's meet in Zoom and decide what we'd like to do. I'm not seeing that she has seen this. Oh, I hope that she'll be able to make it back. I'm going to pause this recording. You won't see anything, but I can just pause the recording. Back.
Okay.
Okay, so technical difficulties aside, I'm so glad that you could still come back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
Pesky
Now,
batteries.
but you were in the middle of saying something. I hope you can remember what it was.
Yeah, I think that it would make sense potentially that the level that we are awake maybe is something that has something to do with the life that we choose. It's for the lessons that we need to learn. Um, and I don't know, I don't necessarily believe that destiny is like predetermined,
Nah.
but it's an interesting thing to think about for sure as far as and I agree. I think that kids coming in these days are have much more capability to be awake and to realize things that we don't.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Another thing that is just super crazy that my daughter said to me when she was 3, she said the Phoenix thing when she was only 2. When she was 3, I was taking her to preschool, and she said, "Mom, every time we come to town, because we live out in the woods, every time we come to town, I see this huge black hole in your back, and there's monsters eating out of it." And I I just was like, "Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense considering what's been happening in life." But it was right. It's so interesting because it was right around the same time when I had been listening to and reading a lot of David Icke and his theories about archons, and the potential that there could be beings that feed off of the light we emit when we're feeling sad or angry. And that was definitely during a part of my life when I was pretty angry and sad about a lot of things because it was the heart of COVID. My brother had just died, and it was just tragic. His story is just so tragic. He was a wonderful man. He was the captain of a fire department and one of the most kind people that I've ever known. And life just totally attacked him, and it was so wrong. And so, like, I was emitting probably a lot of anger and sadness during that time. And even though I know about like the power of attraction and the biology of belief and all this stuff, I was just consumed at that point because also having a toddler and being sleep deprived, and I was in a lot of pain from having a C-section still. And so that I think was the turning point for me when she said that to me. I was like, okay, I got to really clean up my thoughts and do whatever I can to get out of this hole, because like I don't want her to deal with that, you know?
Right. Well, I'm very thankful and grateful that you shared that with us, because I want you to know that just really validates and confirms everything that I've ever felt about the children.
Mm,
They come in here closer to the Godhead than we are. They see, sense, and feel the things that we cannot,
hmm
because we're not close to the Godhead anymore. And the programming and conditioning that is installed in the young ones is what removes them from the Godhead,
hmm
what totally removes us from the Godhead,
Absolutely.
in my view. And you confirmed that I've always suspected that that was true, that the young ones can see things we cannot, because of the fact that they are closer to the Godhead than we are.
Yeah. And I just so wonder what exactly I mean, did she see exactly that? Or did she see, energies? Or it would be so cool to be able to see through her eyes what she was seeing at that time. Because she was, riding in the back seat. She would see if there's a big hole in my back.
Right? Exactly. No, so, oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah, it was one of the most powerful things.
I bet. I
Mhm.
bet. And I'm in awe of that. And I'm so grateful that you shared that, because, that is your own personal experience, and no one can take that away from you.
But I
Um,
do think as adults we're capable, especially in times of great sorrow or connection, or I think we can bring it through meditation and breath work. I think we're capable of reaching those states intentionally.
oh yes,
Because
absolutely. I agree with you. I actually feel that the only thing that keeps us from being there all the time is our belief
hmm
that we can't, or that it's not real, or that's just make believe. And because quite frankly, I know because I was told constantly as a child that I didn't see what I was reporting that I saw, that
hmm
that can't possibly be true, that stop it, stop
hmm
lying. It got pretty bad, for me. I actually was playing with fairies as a child. I can still see them in my mind's eye. I know, but the true gaslighting happens, that removes your own sight when we do that to a child. And that's what I mean when I say that they are closer to the Godhead. They can see, sense, feel, and know way more than we do. And we discount it because they're children.
hmm Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're doing that as a big, huge disservice to ourselves, actually.
I think another part of it is just the busyness of life, like all these distractions and having to have a job to make money and not being able to pay attention to things that would get us closer to the Godhead or seeing through the veil, and being in nature, because I've experienced and seen some things as an adult that that felt like it was a time when the veil was really thin. Um, and I quite frankly don't have enough time to meditate right now. And so it wasn't because I was meditating, but I think those times it was because I was out in nature.
I suspect that you're right. And when I take all of those things as a whole, right? It's kind of easy to then make that next step into seeing that that's all by design. Because
Absolutely.
if you are that powerful, if you find out that you can create, well, now that's a whole other ball of wax, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. They don't
And
want us to find that out.
no. And so all of it, all of what you just talked about there, the gotta make the donuts to pay the mortgage, to do the this, to do the that, all of it is by that design to keep us from ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, no, the programming and conditioning is thick. You're right. It may take generations. I don't even want to think about that though, because honestly, I do think that we can do it. We could. We just have to shift in each moment that we allow ourselves to shift that thinking. Because
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, you know the power of attraction, the biology of belief, all of those things are very real. And
I hope
we,
it doesn't take generations.
me
I
too.
hope it doesn't. And part of me doesn't think it will, because I think there's a concept that E.O. Wilson talked about. Do you know who that is? Edward O. Wilson. He was a great biologist and he studied wildlife all around the world. And his fascination was with ants. But something that he wrote about, just with kind of the biological collapse that he was seeing, was this idea of the bottleneck. And so if you take two bottles and put them together, you end up with like the large part of the bottle and the contraction that happens where the two bottles meet through the mouths, and then a broadening of the bottle once again on the other side of the bottlenecks. And so the idea is that, you start with an earth with plenty of resources for everyone. And not that I don't think there are plenty of resources for everyone, but that is a story out there. And then through abuse and pollution and all sorts of stuff, the bottleneck gets thinner, whether you're looking at this extinction of species, or all sorts of things, causing that constriction. And that constriction is like the hot point, the trauma, the thing we need to get through. But then on the other side is the blooming and blossoming and the reopening of a new world. And I like, even though that can be a scary thing to think about, I really like the concept of the bottleneck, because I think we're in the bottleneck, and I don't think it has to be, it's like how trauma can help us evolve as individuals. And I'm hopeful that the trauma that the world and society is going through right now can cause that quickened learning, that so that we can create the world that needs to be created for humanity to keep going, because I don't want humanity to go extinct. I think that we do carry the divine spark within us, and that it's mystical, it's magical, there's something amazing about it. And if it were lost, something I think would be lost that is a very important part of the universe and existence. And I don't know, I don't claim to know all about it, but I like to think of it that way. And I like to think about being a part of that reemergence. My daughter's going to homeschool, and she just changed campuses, and her new campus is like way up in the woods, and there's no service there, no cell phone service. And I'm just really excited about all of that, and helping to bring that that next generation that's going to be the ones hopefully that are really able to live the next chapter, you know.
No, I'm excited for you because honestly, that's, having already raised my child, and on the other side of that is when I began to awaken to the truth of who I am. And I can clearly see the programming and conditioning that I had a hand in installing in my child. And so knowing that folks like you, like Lisa, Jasmine, because she is now an adult and at 24, or I think 25. I'm not sure. I think she just turned 25. Um, and knowing that your daughter is part of that next generation makes me feel good about the situation. And I do think you're right. That is another part of um, the convincing that goes on. I have suspected for a little while now that, and I suspected it actually last year, but I've been seeing some proving of that, of the fact that it may exactly be that. It might look horrific at the moment, but looks can be deceiving. And in this era of cheap fakes, deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation, AI, and all the other things, I don't subscribe to the fact that it's all going to hell in a handbasket and in quick order. Because where I live in my vicinity, what I am being exposed to personally, and that's all I trust at the moment. Um, it's not like that. People aren't like that. People aren't rude and crude and cruel. We're being shown on the TV and on the social media screens that there are some, perhaps, but I don't even know if those are real when I get shown that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, because what we pay attention to grows. And even if what you're paying attention to isn't real, because then you're helping to create it. And um, you know,
Exactly.
I was before COVID, I was a Democrat and
Oh, you too, huh?
progressive. Yeah. And I was just horrified at climate change and the destruction of the earth. And it made me feel so bad inside. And it was just this constant, like, something just pulling at my heart and making me feel horrible for how everything was going. And I would feel guilty about the littlest things, like using a plastic bag when there's billionaires out there just jetting all over the earth. And and through COVID, it helped me to wake up to the some of the realities that is just a story to a degree. Yes, there are extinctions going on. Yes, there's a lot of pollution that shouldn't be happening. But not everything was as I was shown in college. And what led me to being a Democrat, I realized some of that was actually a facade. And not that I'm a Republican now, I'm an independent, even though I'm still registered as a Democrat.
I registered as unaffiliated myself because that's exactly what I am. I am unaffiliated with any of that mess.
Yeah, well, and I'm just so sick of it all.
Yep.
I'm done paying attention to it. I choose to make a difference, like you said, in my hometown with the people I know, because it's true. I'm surrounded by good things, and I have a lot of compassion for people who aren't, and I wish that to change, and I take steps in my individual life for that to be different. But I'm not going to sit over here and grovel all day, and make myself and my family miserable over things that I can't even see. And like you said, I don't necessarily even know are real, because at this point, there are powers that be that are trying to make humanity create those realities for a lot of different reasons. And we don't have to. We don't have to be slaves to that system anymore, because it's
No.
been thousands of years that we've been
Right.
slaves to that system. So it's about time that we just
Exactly.
take our power back and say no, because we do have the power. And unfortunately, it seems to be getting harder with now, all the digital IDs rolling out. And I know it's just a matter of time before it's pushed in America. And I'm going to say no. And if it means I can't use the internet and I'm locked out of the economy, then that's what it means, because I am one of
Exactly.
the people that is not going to comply. I will
I
not
agree with
comply.
you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I will tell you this right now. If it ever came to that, which I'm telling you, I know it won't.
I hope not. Yeah.
I just feel with all of me that that's not going to happen. But I'm with you. I just say no, and I don't need it. I don't require it. And hey, if you don't want my money, there's somebody else that will take it. Or well, personally, I'm gonna tell you this right now. We don't actually need money. We don't. It's a
It's a pretty
placeholder,
new thing in
right?
history.
It's a placeholder. It is something that actually, in my view, was put into place as a representation of your energy. And somebody somewhere along the way decided, because you see, what your daughter saw is real.
I believe
And your energy is what we pay for, what we use to pay for everything on this planet. And so it's a placeholder and only a placeholder. And somebody somewhere along the way decided, well, this person's energy over here is worth more than this person's energy over here. And therefore, excuse me, who the hell are you? And why did you get to decide that? And that kind of thing. And so I think eventually, how long it will take for everybody to actually get to that point, I don't know. But I feel with all of me that eventually that will happen. And like you said, I love the way you put that. If you're locked out of the internet and the economy, so be it. There will be others who are happy to trade with you, to do things a different way. I know that to be a fact for myself because where I live, there's lots of people already looking around saying, yeah, well, this is not working. So let's just create something else.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to make sure that you are located somewhere where that is the case, which can be hard in bigger cities. But if you've got your network in a big city, then that can still work. But someone that I really respect a lot is Catherine Austin Fitz. If you know,
Love
yeah,
her.
yeah. And she talks a lot about economic issues. And one of the main things she says is like the most important currency of the future is going to be relationships. And so if you are set up somewhere where there's local farms and there's a healthy community and a healthy network you can build with people, and you've got your skill or your craft or whatever you can offer, then there will be those people who are also not going to say, no, I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to be a part of that system. And the hope is that enough of us do so that the system just fails or never even starts from the beginning. That's where I hope that American spirit and independence and sovereignty and liberty really is able to shine through, is that they won't even be able to get the digital ID up and running because enough of us will revolt at the very mention of it. I hope, if as long as enough people are educated on it, because some people, I talk about this stuff and they're just like, whatever, conspiracy theorist.
Right. I realize that you're right about that, but you're exactly right. And I agree with you 100%. And I've been called that too. However, some of those same people who called me that because I started waking up to the conspiracy theories and the geopolitical fuckery on this planet long before COVID. I started waking up to that in 2009.
Oh, that's
And
interesting. That's when I started waking up to it with because I got Lyme disease. It was the first little bit where I was like, wait a minute. But sorry to interrupt.
no, no, see, you brought up a really great point, and that's why I say I love having these kinds of conversations because, again, there was some kind of a shift, right? You just shared with me that you started waking up because of Lyme disease. I wasn't. I think everybody has a different reasoning behind it, and something triggers something in somebody's life, and sometimes it's horrific stuff that triggers it. Right? You had Lyme disease. I was in a wheelchair. I was very, very ill. I had contracted necrotizing fasciitis, and I was I had gone to visit say goodbye basically to my mother. She was in the hospital, and my younger brother showed my sister and I Zeitgeist, and it just floored me. And my sister and I, actually, when we got back to North Carolina, started trying to look around to see whether or not what we were being told in Zeitgeist was true. And wow, what we found from there was just, it was on ever since. And then, I really took an overdrive into it as I pulled my health back into my own hands in 2014. It's like different levels of things. You wake up to the corruption on the planet. So unfortunately, perhaps, and again, you're right. I think COVID was a really huge, actually, when COVID hit, Lisa and I did a two-part conversation, which I think I'm going to find that and put it on the channel for everybody. Everybody was talking about the event, and we said, could this be the event? Because it was something that was happening over the entire planet to everybody all at once. And I really do feel like it was another one of those huge momentary shifts, and meant to do something that was not at all what they'd hoped. So I don't know. It's very interesting. So it was 2009 for you too, huh? That's very
It was. And I think that another shift did happen. It was just more imperceptible in 2012. Whether, I mean, whether reality changed or what, or we got set on a new path, I don't know. And it wasn't what a lot of people expected, but I think, or maybe it was slowly happening and it led to 2020. But
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that ultimately a lot of the things like that are happening are because the forces of evil know humanity's waking up to that divine spark within, and they know their time is limited, because when we realize our inner capability and our potential to co-create our reality, game over for them.
No, exactly correct. That's exactly correct.
So they're just
smack on
straws, they're just trying every old trick in the book that they've got and getting desperate. And I have faith it's not going to work, because I have a lot of faith in good humans.
I think you're right. And I also feel as though a decision somewhere along the way was made to make sure that as many who desired to awaken are given the opportunity to awaken. And because of just what we were talking about in regards to different things happening. I think that's why we are seeing some of what we're seeing. It has to be each's choice as to whether or not they want to. Like you said, I don't believe in fate or destiny necessarily. I believe that we have a goal that we'd like to reach, but everybody also knew coming in here that we were going to come through a veil of forgetting, so to speak. And I say this because I'm certain that my marriage that was 28 and a half years, I'm positive that we were to do some things together that we just couldn't for whatever the reason. And it was a choice that he decided it was too painful for him to look at that programming and conditioning and all of the trauma that he had been through and do the healing that would be required to move forward and do what is about to take place in whatever way, shape, or form that was to be for us together. And everybody gets to choose.
Yeah.
And I personally, I want no hostages on my journey. So, it just came to a time of parting, and that's okay. And that's the other thing we just have to realize, and this goes to family and friends and all the other humans. Not everybody came in here with the idea of awakening either. Because I
Yeah.
used to get real upset thinking, oh my God, you're gonna miss the boat. No,
I did too.
it may be that they were never gonna get on the boat to begin with.
I've tried to convince a lot of people. I realized later it was a waste of time, because if they're that hard to convince or they're just impossible, then what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some people don't want to wake up because it's too scary. Like, I know that when I realize the state of the world, what are the, it's the cognitive dissonance that people can't handle. And it first, like I said, happened with Lyme disease and me realizing how much the government had lied to us. And that led me to taking a leap of faith and doing something that I'd never thought I would do in my life, which is like, okay, my life isn't going to go as I thought it would, as I learned how it should in school, which is you go to school, you get a good job with retirement benefits and health benefits, you work the job, the 9 to 5 for most of your life, and then you retire, and then you die. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm not going to get the job with the retirement and the health benefits and the 401k. I'm going to be self-employed, and I'm going to jump right into that big ocean and try to swim. And I'm so glad I did. And then another big awakening, over COVID, another, red pill or whatever you want to call it, was I was going to my sister-in-law's funeral. She was a newborn intensive care unit nurse that took her life over COVID. And I absolutely blame COVID for her death and my brother's death. They both commit suicide or died from suicide. And I was on my way to her funeral, and I had this moment where I realized what the depth of what was going on with COVID, and I got physically ill. I threw up, and it was like, oh my God, like I just want, I was still holding on to, like, my daughter, I want her to have a normal life. Normal life. I don't want her to live in this crazy world where this kind of thing is happening. But I realized it's happening, and I got physically ill, and yet I accepted it. And I think that is something that a lot of people, they just can't go there, because it is so uncomfortable to come to these realizations and then make changes in your life because of them.
That's right. And when we chat about veils, the veil being out there. I'm convinced the veils are actually inside of us.
Yeah.
And depending on how many of those veils you have actively worked to drop is a direct correlation as to where, I'll just put it right here for me, I am in my psyche. And what you're speaking on there in regards to different folks and not being able to see it or not wanting to see it, it has to do with that. Their psyche would not be able to handle it because they, for whatever the reasons, it doesn't even really matter. It could be the choices that they are making. It could be that they did, maybe they, again, maybe they came here with the express intent not to wake up in this particular incarnation, which is okay. We all get all twisted because, again, we also have this idea of what death is. And none of us actually know for sure exactly what it is,
Yeah.
or exactly what takes place. We can look at near death experiencers and their experiences all we want to, but that's still their experience, not our own. And we don't know exactly what takes place. And so I am being guided at these moments of now, like I was sharing earlier today. Nothing is what it seems. Nothing is what I have been told it was. And so I'm not going to be afraid for anyone, including myself, as to what's next, because I think we got this. We got this in many different ways. And we just have to relax into that knowing that we do got this. There's a larger portion of ourselves. Clearly. I mean, think about it. What you just said, what you just shared about your daughter seeing the hole in your back. Could you imagine a 3-year-old witnessing a hole in her mother's back that is being fed upon by astral entities? And she just tells you like it's a matter of fact. I'm sorry, you yourself would freak the F out if you saw that, and you would.
I know, I would.
Right? And so we are so much more than we've ever allowed ourselves to believe.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to show ourselves the truth of that statement right there, I feel like.
And it was such a synchronicity, because I don't think I'd learned about the archons from David Icke's work except for maybe a few months before. And so if she had told me that at any other point in my life, I would have been like, oh, haha, isn't that a funny story, honey? you know? But
Right?
no, I was like, oh my gosh, she does. She is seeing that, because we can't see over 99% of the energy that surrounds us.
That's right. Science will tell you that.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
science.
yeah, we can, there's only in the realm of what's visible, the human eye can only see about this much.
Yeah, a tiny, tiny amount. And so, of course, we are surrounded by so much more. And that, I think that really kind of speaks to that force of evil that I keep referencing, is like, that gets, I think, at why humanity has been so enslaved and controlled and oppressed. It's because maybe something is feeding upon our energy that we can't see, you
Right.
know? But I love what you said about just trusting and knowing that everything's going to be okay and work out the way that it is, because that's something I've struggled with, because I so badly want good to prevail, but I think that the only way for good to prevail is for us to have that trust and be open to the beauty unfolding, because that's the basis of love, and ultimately I think love wins.
Yes, I think you're right. Because for me, what I've now come to the conclusion of too is that because we are in a duality, we've been taught that there's good and there's bad. It's all the same thing. And it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of, um,
Lessons,
yes.
right?
And I just don't, we have this, again, because everything that we've been taught is only either half of the truth, a smidgen of the truth, or flat out not at all the truth. It's all up for interpretation at this point for me in my life, because one man's good is another man's evil.
Absolutely.
And you know, I don't know. There's just I think that we are, again, when I think of how powerful we are, that everything has been unleashed in a way to try to keep us busy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the boogeyman is larger. You know how it says in the mirror, things are larger than they appear or whatever. I think the bad guys have made themselves appear pretty big and pretty menacing. Don't think they are what they think they are. And
Mm-hmm.
we have allowed them to present. And, you know, the scarier we think they are, the scarier they're going to try to be. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
I really love, I'm so grateful to Lisa and Amelia Benz because that's where she heard it. Um, Fear is an invitation.
Mm.
That's all it is. It's an invitation, and I do not have to. There's nothing saying I got to accept anybody's invitation, including fear.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
such a good thing to keep in mind when we get fearful. Don't
Yes.
don't invite them.
Yeah, no, that's right. That needs your consent. Fear needs your consent. And once you agree to be afraid, well, then it's on like Donkey Kong because, you know, hey, you just consented. So here we go.
Yeah. And that's the reason by so much of the behind so much of the fear propaganda. And I think also this idea of like the powers that be, they tend to tell us what they're going to do before they tell us. You know, it's not only to get our attention to help get us to help them create it, but to invite that fear in.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I look and I see that I have now kept you for the full 2 hours, and I really appreciate you coming and chatting with me. And this has been so lovely. I hope you will come back.
I would love to. It's been so
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
Oh,
Next time I'll try to make sure my battery's actually charging from my computer when I think it is. But
no worries, no worries. It all serves, right? I
yeah.
really I'm relaxing into now in such a really interesting way. I keep being shown that that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what we could all actually do is to relax into ourselves because there is a larger part of me, you, all of us that has this all in hand. Just because I think something is bad, just because I think I want to label it as a mistake, doesn't mean it actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was good for me because, you know, I was a little nervous coming into the interview or not interview, the conversation with you, just because I'm used to, you know, doing recordings that I control. And I know that for most of it, I'm just going to be reading one of Jason's amazing pieces of writing and maybe saying a couple minutes of something. So I was nervous. But you make it easy to relax into conversation. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And let me just say, you're not the only one. Can I just say that everybody I have ever invited to come and do this with me has said the exact same thing, that it's, they get nervous, and it's just a conversation. And honestly, it's because it's going out on the internet and other people will see it and all of those kinds of things. We get all up in our heads, but I'm so glad that you didn't allow that to stop you, that you did come and have the conversation with me, because that's actually, I think, good for all of us to hear and to know that it is just, we show up and be ourselves, and those who aren't into us, it's okay. You don't got to be into me. Nobody's uh holding you here, and I'm not charging anything, so it's not like you had a ticket. You got to, and so yeah, it's just a conversation, and that's really. I kind of feel like if we would all approach all of life in that manner, we'd be a whole lot better off, because that's really all it is. It's a conversation with each other, even out in the world, in the wide world. It's just a conversation with another, and
Yeah.
we don't all have to agree. And that's the other thing. It makes it look like such a horrific thing out there when somebody doesn't agree with you. But hey,
Okay.
I used to have conversations back in the late 70s, early 80s all the time with folks, and we would just agree to disagree and move on to a different topic. Whatever happened to that?
I know. I don't know. I miss those days. I was mostly just a kid, but I miss that. Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing, because I think it's really important for these conversations to be happening and talking about important things, not just be, chit-chatting on a surface level, or keeping, having a rigid set of topics that you're going to discuss, stuff like that.
Yes.
So thank you for what you're doing, because I think it's very important to talk about this stuff.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because sometimes again, I'm just doing what feels good to me to do. And sometimes I think about that, though. It's like, but I do have some topics in mind that but also I love to throw a topic out and then see where it goes from there, because all kinds of greatness can ensue from that. And that's where I'd like to see. You see, my original channel was Conscious Conversation Central, and the whole idea was to have these sorts of conversations with folks, because just for those very reasons, like you said, I think they're important conversations, and they show folks that it is just a conversation. It does. It's not, it's not rocket science. We're not trying to
Yeah.
save
Well, and
anybody's
it's
life.
so fun to see where it goes organically too, because that's exactly the thing that leads to cool synchronicities and to amazing realizations. It's like, oh, that coincidence that happened when we were talking, or whatever.
That's
So I
right.
think that's
No,
the
so
fun
right.
part of it. Well, thank
So
you so
right.
much for
Okay.
having me, Sheila, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. And yeah, let's do it again sometime. I am going to be busy the rest of the month. I have an elk hunt coming up, so I'm going to be
Okay.
gone elk hunting for a while.
Well, I want you to stay right there. I'm going to take a moment and say something, so don't go anywhere, and then I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
And I just want to say that I will be putting in the show more section of this video a link to Amber's channel. If you have not had a listen to Amber, please do go over and subscribe to Amber's channel. And because she has recorded an awful lot more of Jason's work than I have,
Oh, I
specifically.
don't think so. I think you've recorded more.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
I
maybe
don't
because
know.
I've
It's
been
like,
doing it longer.
yeah.
Well, at any rate, you've recorded some that I have not. And so, I would love for folks to go over and subscribe to your channel as well. And let's see, is there anything else? No, I think that's it. Although I would like to say, move towards that which draws you. Move towards what draws you in. There is something there for you. Also, I hope that you will move in every moment towards that which brings you joy. There's a reason for that as well. Until next time.